Well, last night, most people were going to sleep. I know Geraldo always stays up late, but the president was...
I am a night owl, actually.
You probably were watching Twitter last night because President Trump was tweeting last night about the press, and it was in the wake of everything that happened on Friday afternoon with a portion of the press corps being kept out of that gaggle, that private meeting with Press Secretary Sean Spicer. He tweeted this last night saying, "Fake news media knowingly doesn't tell the truth, a great danger to our country. The failing New York Times it has become a joke. Likewise, CNN, sad." What did you make of what unfolded yesterday?
Well, there was a pool in the Sean Spicer's office at the White House. Certain reporters, with a pool, a select few reporters report for everybody. So that was okay. That was a pool. But then Sean Spicer added some of the more conservative outlets, Washington Examiner, Breitbart, told them to come in and excluded the New York Times, the Los Angeles Times, CNN, and Politico, the kind of progressive or left-leaning political newsletter. The problem is when you start messing around like that, when you start picking winners and losers, the press really does have a tendency to coalesce, to stand united, like the cast of Friends. We all get paid the same.
But to be fair, the White House never said that they chose. So later in the day, Sarah Huckabee Sanders came out and said that this was not an attempt to exclude anyone, that it was simply a smaller pool. So had they come out overtly and said...
First of all, that's BS. I don't buy that at all. I mean, that's total spin, and it's preposterous. And the worst thing about all this, like in the, I love the fake New York Times. Pete does. Here's the story. Here's the front page story for the world is about the news media.
Sure.
We should not be the news. There's so many things going on in Syria, in Korea, with vis-a-vis China and the South China Sea and all the rest of it. Why are we talking about ourselves?
The White House can't control what the media is focused on. That is not their job at the end of the day. What President Trump, though, did say yesterday at CPAC, Geraldo, he said, "I'm okay if the press wants to write a negative story on me as long as it's based in fact. What I have a problem with is this fake news, when you have pieces coming out in places like the New York Times that are full of sources that are in fact false." He said that is dangerous to the American people.
Well, first of all, I do not know that to be a fact, that the stories are based on false information. But I think the president is leading the charge, Abby, in terms of making the news the news. It's all fake news. These are my enemies. It's horrible. It's preposterous. Like the speech he gave at CPAC. That speech was a campaign speech. The only difference is wherever he would have referenced Hillary Clinton in the past, now insert the fake news media. Same speech, except instead of Hillary, he said fake news media. It got so comparable to the campaign speeches that the crowd started chanting, "Lock her up. Lock her up." I mean, come on, we got to move past
But you talked about how maybe Sean Spicer was picking winners and losers by bringing in conservative outlets and blocking some that have been reporting, in some cases, falsehoods. But hasn't the press pool that has existed for decades, haven't they been picking winners and losers? Haven't they been the small lens through which we have to see the world, all of which are leftward-leaning, all of which are inclined toward the establishment? So aren't Sean Spicer, the White House, President Trump saying, we're going to drain the cesspool of the pool that decides what you hear, American people, and we're going to bring in more voices because we're done hearing from just the left-wing elites on the coasts in the New York Times?
I love your passion, and I don't disagree, Pete, with anything that you just said. But I make this point as an elder statesman. If we in the media don't stand together, then people who are in charge of the information can pick winners and losers, and that's not the way the press should operate.
But they're not being
We have to be united.
Reporting.
Well, but that's what Fox News did, though. We've stood behind the free press because we've been through this before.
As they stood with us during the Obama administration when we were being shortchanged, they said, wait a second. The NBC, CBS, and ABC, wait a second, Fox doesn't go, we don't go. And I think that's the way it has to be. Now, the president's complaints about factual accuracy and spin and angle and bias and all that, all may be true. But the forum is, that can be debated. But when you start saying you can come in, hey, not you, no good.